Hi guys, and welcome to another video. In this one we're going to go over the basics or the start of integration testing in C#, and we're going to do that with a library or a class called the Web Application Factory. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to essentially build up our API here in an in-memory version so that we can call it directly from our unit tests. To do this, we're going to have to install this package here, which is the MVC testing. We're going to want to make sure, at least for this one, that we're using version 6, and that's because I'm still using .NET 6, and we're going to install that into our test library. Now that we've got that done, we also need to do one more thing, and which is add a reference from tests to our program class, to our API project, because we need to be able to access our program class. And the test we're going to do is very, very simple. We've got a weather forecast controller. All we're going to do is assert that this is okay and returns a 200. I've already got a controller test set up, and all we're going to do is when calling weather controller, it should return okay. And we can start immediately by creating an instance of our factory, so a new web application factory. And there's multiple constructors for this. What we're going to use is this one here, which takes in an entry point, and that entry point is going to be our program class. But you will notice a problem with this is that the program class isn't actually accessible, and it's not accessible because by default program is internal. So what we need to do is add something to our CSproj that essentially says we can access this from our test project. And to do that, we can create a new item group, a new XML tag for internals visible to, and we'll just close that tag now, and we'll pass in an attribute of include, and this should be the name of your project, your test project. In my case, it is tests. If we save that quickly and go back to our controller test, we can pass in now program. Now we've got that created, the factory allows us to create our own HTTP client. So we can just go factory.createClient and we'll call that a client. From here, this is just your standard HTTP client, so you have access to all of your normal functions. We're going to use getAsync, and we're going to await this immediately. And we're going to pass in the URL, and it's a relative URL. It already knows where your API is, so you just need to pass in this case, the root of weather forecast, which is weather forecast. This is a nice rider thing, by the way, where it already knows what your API route is going to be. Very clever. From there, we'll just get the response. And we can then just do assert.equal. We want it to be HTTP status code dot OK in this situation. And we're just checking the response dot status code. Now, if I go and run this test, we should get a success. And just to prove this is all working as expected, if I change this to say, I don't know, a not found result, and I rerun this test, we will get an exception because the failure doesn't match. We got not found, but we expected okay. I'm going to go over integration testing in a bit more detail in future videos, and show you guys how we can actually build our own services, swap out services, mock HTTP requests within these integration tests, but that'll all come in a future video. This is just a getting started one to show you that this is actually possible. And for now, that's going to be the end of this video. If you found it useful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.